Across America, Harley Davidson showrooms are filling up, but not with customers. Bikes are stacking up like unsold furniture. Sales have stalled. Inventory is overflowing. And behind the scenes, dealers are quietly getting desperate. Today, we break down 7 Harley Davidson motorcycles that just won't sell, models gathering dust, frustrating dealerships, and confusing loyal fans. Number 7, Harley Davidson Softail Standard. The Harley Davidson Softail Standard was meant to strip away the fluff and bring riders back to the basics. No screens, no fancy tech, just a rumbling Milwaukee 8107 engine and that classic cruiser silhouette. It was marketed as a true Harley experience, the kind your granddad would recognize. Steel, chrome, and freedom, right? Well, sort of. In reality, that minimalism came at a cost, literally and figuratively. With no windshield, riders are left to battle the elements at highway speeds. No passenger seat means you're riding solo unless you pay extra. And the suspension? It might look classic, but on longer rides, it feels like you're getting slapped in the spine with every pothole. And here's the kicker, at $13,949, riders expected more than just nostalgia. They wanted a machine that could hold its own in the modern world. But what they got felt like a starter kit, a bare-bones frame that demanded thousands more in upgrades just to be rideable on road trips or daily commutes. It's not that the Softail Standard is a bad bike, it's just stuck between eras. Too old school for practicality, too under-equipped for the price tag. For Harley loyalists, it didn't bring back memories. It brought back receipts. Number 6, Harley Davidson Street Rod. The Harley Davidson Street Rod was supposed to be a revolution, a bold step into the future. Harley wanted to lure in younger riders, especially those who wanted performance without the heft of a full-size cruiser. And on paper? It looked promising. A liquid-cooled Revolution X engine, sportier suspension, and cafe racer-inspired styling. Compact, nimble-looking, with an aggressive stance. This wasn't your dad's Harley, it was supposed to be yours. But then you actually rode it. The riding position felt like an afterthought. Pegs too high, bars too close, like someone took the geometry of a sport bike and just guessed. It cramped taller riders and wore out shorter ones. The engine, while smooth, didn't growl like a Harley should. It buzzed. It whined. It lacked that signature rumble that gives you goosebumps when you start it up. And while the $8,699 price tag seemed affordable, it fell right into the danger zone. Because at that price, Japanese competitors like the Yamaha MT-07 were not just better, they were way better. More powerful, more refined, and more fun to ride. You could hop on an MT-07 and instantly feel like it was designed for you. On the Street Rod? You felt like you were making compromises. Worst of all, the Street Rod didn't know its audience. Harley purists dismissed it outright, no chrome, no thunder, and none of the outlaw attitude they loved. And the younger crowd it was built for? They looked elsewhere. In trying to please everyone, it ended up pleasing no one. It was Harley's shot at evolution, but in the end, the Street Rod just rode straight into a dead end. Number 5, Harley Davidson Road Glide CVO. The Harley Davidson Road Glide CVO was supposed to be the ultimate statement, Harley's crown jewel in the touring category. This bike had it all: power, comfort, luxury. 121 cubic inches of pure thunder roaring through the engine, state-of-the-art tech, and enough chrome to make a Hollywood car look underdressed. It was the kind of machine you'd picture yourself crossing the country on, smooth, powerful, and packed with features. And then came the kicker. The price tag. $51,999. That's more than some cars. More than a small house down payment. And for what? A luxury cruiser that some might argue is more about prestige than actual value. See, here's where things started to fall apart, because while the Road Glide CVO is impressive, the math didn't add up. A standard Road Glide, priced much more reasonably, offers about 80% of the same experience for almost half the price. You get the same engine, the same riding experience, and the same wind-slicing design, but without the excess cost for things like custom paint, high-end finishes, and extra tech. What's worse? CVO models are notorious for depreciating fast. A year down the road, your $51,999 investment will be worth a lot less. The second-hand market for these bikes isn't kind. And even if you're a die-hard Harley fan, those maintenance costs don't get any easier. Even loyalists started doing the math. And when they realized they could get almost the same thing for a fraction of the price, the Road Glide CVO became a hard sell. Harley made a bike that should have been the pinnacle of luxury. But for many, it turned out to be more about flaunting the brand than enjoying the ride. Number 4, Harley Davidson Fat Bob 114. The Harley Davidson Fat Bob 114 looks like it's ready to tear up the streets. It's big. It's bold. It has fat tires, chunky forks, LED lighting, and an engine that throws out 119 pound-foot of torque. On paper, it's a beast, a bike that demands respect. But when you actually get on the Fat Bob, something strange happens. It doesn't quite make sense. In the city, its weight becomes a burden. The Fat Bob is too heavy for tight turns and quick maneuvers. It demands attention at every stoplight and struggles to fit into crowded lanes. And then, when you try to take it on a long haul, the ride is anything but comfortable. It's rough, almost punishing. The suspension feels harsh, and the riding position, while aggressive, isn't built for comfort. For city riding, it's cumbersome. For long-distance touring, it's too jarring. And if you were hoping for a bike that you could casually cruise on, forget it. What makes this bike even more confusing is that, for Harley purists, its styling felt like a betrayal. The Fat Bob was all modern, muscular lines that seemed out of place next to the traditional, laid-back cruisers that Harley is known for. It didn't have that old-school charm or classic vibe that fans had come to love. It felt more like a contemporary statement that didn't really fit in with the legacy of the brand. And then, there's the price. Around $18,000. For that, you're getting a niche bike, one that appeals to a very specific group. Too aggressive for the casual rider. Too impractical for long trips. And for the traditional Harley fan, just a bit too off-brand. At the end of the day, the Fat Bob became a bike for a very small crowd, a bike that looked amazing in photos but left most riders thinking, it's just not for me. Number 3, Harley Davidson Livewire. Harley Davidson took a giant leap forward with the Livewire, their first all-electric motorcycle. And at first glance, it seemed like a revolution in the making. The performance? Unbelievable. Instant torque. 0 to 60 in under 3.5 seconds. It could leave most gas-powered bikes in the dust. This was a Harley for the 21st century, fast, futuristic, and ready to redefine what a motorcycle could be. But then came the price tag. $29,799. For that kind of money, riders expected more than just cutting-edge technology. They wanted the full Harley experience, raw power, soul, and, most importantly, that unmistakable rumble. But the Livewire had none of that. It was eerily silent. No roaring engine, no thunderous rumble that Harley fans crave. For many, it just didn't feel like a Harley at all. Beyond the lack of sound, the Livewire also faced practical issues that made it less appealing. The range was limited, great for short city commutes, but not built for long road trips. Charging stations? Few and far between, especially in more rural areas. The promise of a truly modern motorcycle ran headlong into the reality of an infrastructure that wasn't ready for it. And as time went on, the novelty wore off. Even with massive discounts, dealers couldn't move these bikes off the floor. Harley's loyalists, the ones who had spent years riding loud, powerful machines, didn't want a silent, eco-friendly alternative. They didn't want electric, they wanted the classic Harley experience they knew and loved. And the Livewire simply wasn't it. It was a bold move. But in the end, the Livewire failed to capture the hearts of Harley's most loyal customers. And while the world may be moving toward electric bikes, it turns out that for Harley, the future wasn't ready to replace their past. Number 2, Harley Davidson Nightster. Now, let's talk about the Harley Davidson Nightster. This was meant to be a bridge, a motorcycle that combined modern performance with the classic Harley spirit. On paper, it seemed like the perfect blend of innovation and heritage. Powered by the new Revolution Max engine, the Nightster promised smooth, responsive power and impressive efficiency. It could hold its own against just about anything on the road, quick, sharp, and technically sound. But here's the catch, it missed the mark when it came to what makes a Harley a Harley. Sure, the engine was smooth and the bike performed well, but it didn't have the soul that Harley enthusiasts live for. There was something missing. Fans of the brand complained that the build felt too plasticky, too artificial. The riding position? Cramped, uncomfortable for long rides, and not what they expected from a Harley. At $13,499, it left buyers with one big question. Why not just buy a used Sportster for a fraction of the cost, or go with a brand new Yamaha? The Nightster just didn't offer enough to justify the price. It didn't stand out in a sea of options. It didn't evoke that deep connection to Harley's iconic legacy. And most importantly, it didn't sell. This bike was supposed to carry the Harley torch into a new era, but instead, it felt like it was trying too hard to be something it wasn't. In the end, the Nightster didn't make the impact that Harley hoped for, leaving dealers with unsold stock and riders wondering if Harley could really pull off a successful transition into the modern age. Number 1, Harley Davidson Street 500 and 750. And now, the biggest disappointment of them all, the Harley Davidson Street 500 and 750. Harley's attempt to appeal to the younger, budget-conscious crowd, an entry-level bike meant to bring new riders into the fold. The idea sounded good. Offer a more affordable Harley experience to attract a wider audience. But in execution? It was a disaster. Harley cut too many corners with these models. Cheap components, a bland design that didn't scream Harley, and performance that barely measured up. And the sound? Absolutely nothing like the iconic Harley rumble that so many riders crave. At the same price point, Japanese brands like Honda and Yamaha were offering bikes that outperformed the streets in every way, better quality, smoother rides, and far more engaging experiences. It didn't take long for potential buyers to notice, and for dealers to turn their backs on these bikes. Even the idea of a budget Harley seemed like a lost cause. Harley tried to sell a watered-down version of their brand, but it just didn't work. The Street Series was pulled from the lineup, and Harley quietly axed the whole thing. It was a hard lesson. Sometimes, you just can't build a budget Harley and expect it to fly off the shelves. In the end, the Street 500 and 750 proved that the heart of Harley isn't something you can cheapen. You can't slap a logo on a bike and call it a Harley. It has to have that soul, that character. And these bikes, unfortunately, just didn't have it.